having been part of the team that in many respects midwifed a new constitution, how does this make you feel? I mean, we've never done this before in our country.
It makes me feel very pleased, and as stated earlier, one of the key weaknesses of our system is the culture, the political culture especially. And what we're hoping to gain through the new constitution is get constitutional culture in place. And this is a key milestone in the sense that here we have the candidates coming forward, being questioned in public. Can you imagine in 1992 or 1997 having former President Moi on the same panel with a number of other candidates being queried on this issue? So really, this is a very proud moment for our constitutional growth and for the growth of our democracy.
And that would be very interesting also, Asango, for you as someone who comes from the other side of civil society, where there's been a lot of discussion about opening our society, bigger democratic space.
Yes, I think one of the concerns has been how we can ensure we have an issue-based political culture. And I think having the debate is important. As Macharia was expressing earlier, and yourself, it's a bit late in the day, but I think it's important for us to begin this journey. I hope that in the future we will have these kind of debates earlier and more frequently. It's very important that we get to understand what candidates stand for. What is it that they're proposing for Kenya? And that there be a space created where candidates can articulate this and where we as a public get to interrogate them on this. What are the ideas? What is the vision of the future that they're presenting and offering? And after this, I think it's important they understand we will hold them accountable to what it is they're saying that they're offering for us.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that, Macharia, you mentioned from the start was this idea of offering free things. And coupled with that is, for example, where you find certain manifestos talking about putting, say, 10% of GDP on infrastructure. That's a lot of money, and I was reading somewhere it doesn't happen anywhere else. Why is it very easy for these parties to make all these lofty promises?
As I was saying, when you look through their manifestos, they really are not political manifestos. They are campaign promises. They're the kind of things which will be said on the platform. Offer all this free education, universal health care, cash handouts to the needy, and everything under the sun. But none of them have got really any ideological base or any philosophical base. It is just about what can attract people to vote for me.
Which brings me to an interesting question I've been thinking about. Now that you mention ideology, are we likely to see an inkling from this discussion of where people really stand? Because it's easy for people to have this grand platform called a manifesto, but when people are up close and they are being asked questions, probably there might be something that we haven't seen before.
I hope we will see it, because from reading the manifestos, I don't see any difference, ideological difference between any of them. I hope we will see it when we get to ask them questions.
Asango?
I think we still have a long journey to go in terms of having a politics that's based on ideology in this country. I think we did at some point in time have that happening, but we also did not have some of the kind of tools that we have available now for sharing it. So ironically, whereas we have a technological capacity now to share ideas, we actually fill that space with a lot of fluff, when really we could be using that space to ask these questions.
But where do we start, Abdikadir? Because one actually has to think, at what point do I hear, for example, Jubilee or CORD or Amani, whatever, and immediately something comes to my mind? When do we get to that point that you can readily identify certain political groupings, platforms with certain ideologies?
When ideology becomes part of the marking scheme. Because right now, ideology might not be the key.
Who needs to make it?
I think both ways. I think we have to grow our political culture has to grow, and we have to move that way. But I would actually see this as half the cup being half full as opposed to half empty. I absolutely get what my colleagues are saying in the sense that most Kenyans may not be making a decision on the ideology of the party or the individual, but it's a start. And I think the best thing is to then move that forward and say, for example, cost it so that we can query them on costing, and then ask execution, not just the platitudes and on the paper, but how are you going to execute those policies? And I would really look out for an understanding of the system itself, because our system is changed. It's not just the executive doing these things as far as budgeting is concerned. Budgeting has moved to a large extent to the National Assembly and Parliament to that extent. And then there's quite a bit of execution on the county level. So I would really look out for somebody who has thought through, or a team that has thought through.
But how do you have an ideological platform when, for example, Macharia, you look at 92, 97, 2002, and really if you look at all these elections, you'll find that the big parties were totally different. I mean, if you look at PNU, for instance, in 2007, is dead. It's no longer there. So how do you have that consistent sort of platform where actually people can identify parties with something?
I'd say our politics is still evolving, and we are still somewhere very far behind, because we don't have political parties in the right meaning of the word. What we have is temporary vehicles. Today, if you ask me which is the ruling party, I have no idea. But we have a president who has been in power, who is leaving power after 5 years. You don't even know what party he belongs to. The same guys who are with him in the government today, each of them have their own very new parties.
I'll just stop you there. Watching your screen right now, you can see the presidential candidate of Amani, that is Musalia Mudavadi of UDF, arriving there at the Brookhouse International School. Remember, this is where the debate is going to get underway at around about 7:30 p.m. and this is going to be broadcast on 8 television stations, 34 radio stations, millions going to be watching it online from around the world. So we're going to just keep you updated as things happen at the Brookhouse International School. But we're here in studio with our panel here, and Macharia, you were just making a point about parties really not getting enough time to get their grounding so that we can actually follow them and know what they really believe in.
As I was saying, they are not political parties in the traditional sense of the term. They are temporary vehicles for power. Tomorrow you don't know which party Raila Odinga will be in, or Uhuru Kenyatta or Musalia Mudavadi will be in, because they keep evolving and transmuting, and it's hard to keep up.
But Abdikadir, do parties matter anymore? I mean, I have seen, for example, the 10th Parliament that you were a member of, some of the most amazing political gymnastics happening right there.
Those in the corporate world, they probably would understand parties in this country are special purpose vehicles. They are for a particular project, that particular one election. Hopefully we'll move forward to a situation where we have stable political parties. In fact, one of the reasons why most people in the political circles who are disconnected from the rest of the country is because those of us who are in the political circles knew that political parties essentially were special purpose vehicles. So the idea of locking individuals in that political party, while it was absolutely good on paper.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there just briefly, because right there at the Brookhouse International School, there is another high-profile arrival, and that should be the TNA, and this time in that alliance, Jubilee presidential candidate, that's Uhuru Kenyatta. His arrival there, basically almost completing that list. There he is, Uhuru Kenyatta of Jubilee Alliance, the leader of the National Alliance, arriving there at the Brookhouse International School. He of course, is one of the 7 presidential candidates that are going to be taking part in this very important presidential election debate, rather. And he is being received there by Janet Mbogwa of Citizen TV. Remember, this is a joint media project bringing together all these different stations in the country, trying to make sense out of the different platforms that the various presidential candidates have presented in the last few days. Remember, Jubilee Coalition presented their manifesto just over a week ago, where they made many proposals, some of which that we'll be talking about here. But Uhuru Kenyatta, that is the man arriving there at the Brookhouse International School for this debate. And we are going to be looking at some of the issues that have been proposed in that manifesto in a few minutes. But Abdikadir, you were making a point about the gymnastics, the special purpose vehicles, you call them.
Yes, actually the weakest link right now in terms of our political system are the political parties. And one of the outstanding projects for our political growth really is the political party. The Constitution has done quite a bit in terms of pushing that side. There has been quite a bit of debate, but that is really the outstanding bit. Until we get that correct, I think the political system will be that much weaker, because any system is as weak as its weakest link, and we have a very weak link in terms of the political parties, right?
Any signs of hope, Asango? Where do we go with this political party thing? Because I think we really have to crack it. We have to know how we are going to nurture political parties so that I can know for certain that TNA or ODM or whatever it is will not be missing from the ballot in 2017 or 2018, whichever the case may be.
I remember when we were working at the COE on the new constitution, one of the things that Professor Guy actually pointed out to us was that we as a committee were going to have a challenge because of the evolution of what he referred to as political individuals as opposed to political parties, and that the CKRC had negotiated with political parties, but we were going to have to deal with political individuals, which meant a whole plethora of individuals. There was quite a bit of work done, if you look at the various constitutional drafts, on ensuring that we had in place a theoretical framework that encouraged a strong political culture. But I'm sorry to say, I think if you look at some of the steps that were taken with the legislation, particularly in the last days of the 10th Parliament, they undermined some of those principles that had been put in place. And I think I'm not convinced that Kenya's political elite understand or appreciate the relevance of political parties. That this is something which, even amongst the political elite themselves, there is a need for further reflection and interrogation and internalization. And you know, I think for me it raises questions around whether or not there's actually trust amongst themselves and learning how to play as a team. I think we're a country that has evolved a culture where we work as individuals, but we're not very strong at working with each other.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about this debate, Macharia. Do you think that this debate means the same thing for all these candidates today, based on what has happened over the last couple of months, where they are perceived to stand, for example, in the opinion polls and so on?
I don't know their thinking behind agreeing to participate, but I think we can be grateful that they have all agreed to participate. And obviously they'll all hope to gain from being there, from that chance, that opportunity to expound and to explain themselves. We have seen in political debates of such nature elsewhere, the candidates even get ranked on who is the winner, on who is the loser. I don't know how we will manage that here, but it would help if somebody comes out strongly, explains himself clearly, answers the hard questions. That of course takes a lot of work in terms of preparation. If you come here and you're not prepared and you don't perform well, it could impact on you.
All right, thank you very much, Macharia Gaitho. We are going to be continuing with our discussion here in this studio, where we have different panelists here giving us their perspectives and thoughts on this historic debate that is not too far away from now. But I'm going to take you very quickly to Brookhouse International School, where Linda Ogutu and Hussein Mohammed are standing by to give us an update of just what's going on now and what we can expect in the next few minutes.